here we are going to convert to a percent. 0.3 converted to a percent. We can do this one of two ways. We can multiply 0.3 times 100, and that is going to give us 30%. Or you could just think of it as moving the decimal place 2 places to the right, putting in a 0, putting a percent sign, and dropping that first 0 that's not needed. Either way, you get 30% as your final answer. On the next one, we're solving the proportion equation. We're going to do this by cross multiplying. X times 7 is 7x. 28 times 13. And then 28 times 13, if I'm using my calculator, that gives me 364 is equal to 7x. To get x by itself now, I need to divide both sides by 7 to give me x equals 364 divided by 7 is a nice, neat whole number, which is 52. (175% of 40 is), I'm going to use that PBR formula. 100 always goes there. The 175 goes on top, and the of 40 that tells us our base in that formula is 40, and the P is what we do not know. What number of 40 is 175%? So therefore, we're going to solve this proportion by cross multiplication. 100p equals 175 times 40. What my calculator tells me is 7,000. When I multiply these two together, I get 7,000. Then now I'm going to divide both sides by 100 to get my p by itself. So p is equal to, and here's a nice trick to dividing out zeros. If there are zeros, you can just cancel those. You get 70 over 1, which is just 70. If you're not sure about that, you can put 7,000 divided by 100 in your calculator. It should still give you 70. So 175% of 40 is 70. Notice it's a bigger number than 40 because 175% is more than 100%. The compression ratio in a certain engine is 9.8 to 1. If the expanded volume of a cylinder is 49 cubic inches, what is the compressed volume? So when you were working on your homework and you looked at the view and example, there was a formula, but you don't have to memorize the formula to understand this one. It says that the compression ratio is 9.8 to 1. And so now I need to logically think about whether or not this is going to be direct or indirect. So think about the expanded volume being 49 cubic inches and a compressed volume being the unknown. If we think of it as directly proportional, we would write it as, so this is a maybe, if direct, we would write it as 9.8 to 1 equals 49 to what we don't know. Let's just call it V for volume, or we could call it compressed, C for compressed volume. So if that's the case, then there would be a direct proportion. Notice, if you think about it, expanded volume is a bigger number, goes with the bigger number, versus compressed volume, which goes with the smaller number. So this is actually the way that you set it up. Therefore, if you just cross multiply, you get 9.8C equals 49 times 1. Divide both sides by 9.8. And you get C, or the compressed volume, is equal to 49 divided by 9.8, which is 5. Okay. So on this one, we're going to fill in the ratios, but we need to think about whether or not number of teeth on a gear and RPM of that gear is directly proportional or inversely proportional. And so the way I think of this is, if it has more teeth, it's bigger. Excuse my drawing, maybe it'll make you laugh. Versus a smaller gear that would have fewer teeth. And if you recall, the size of the gear is inversely proportional to the RPMs. And so if this thing's turning, it's going to take longer for it to make 1 RPM than it would this smaller one. Therefore, the number of teeth, as the number of teeth goes up, the gear is bigger and the RPM goes down. So this is inversely proportional. Therefore, when we set this up, it's going to be teeth on gear 1 to teeth on gear 2 is equal to, and I'm going to put the, not the teeth, excuse me, that's supposed to be RPM of gear 1 and RPM of gear 2. Notice I did not put those equal to one another. So this is the formula we're going to use for all the questions on A through D. Therefore, we have number of teeth on gear 1 is 10, looking at the table. Number of teeth on gear 2, 24, is equal to RPM of gear 1 is going to go on the bottom. Notice it's cross diagonal from teeth on gear 1 because it's inversely proportional. So that's 240 RPM. And then the unknown, I'm just going to call it X, RPM of gear 2. So then we just cross multiply. 240 times 10, just adds a 0 at the end there, equals 24x. Multiplying these two together, divide both sides by 24. We're going to get x equals 100. And notice the ratios are inversely proportional. We can see that from the table. As the number of teeth go up, the RPMs go down. That's what it means to be inversely proportional. The next one, we're going to have 25 over we don't know equals, and then set this one up with 145 on the bottom and 410 on the top. Cross multiply, and we're going to get 25 times 145 is 3625 equal to 410x. Divide both sides by 410, and we get x is 8.841. Reading the instructions, round to the nearest whole number, so that's going to be a 9. Make sure it makes sense. As one goes down, the other one goes up. Yes. Part C, we don't know the gear 1 teeth. Gear 2 teeth is equal to not 120 over 75, but 75 over 120. Switching those other two. Then we cross multiply, and we get 120x equals 56 times 75, which is 4,200. Divide that by 120, we get x equals 35. Whoops, wrote that in the wrong place. So now that's 35 here. Make sure that it makes sense. As one goes up, as the teeth go up, this number should go down. Yes, that makes sense, according to the fact that we said it's inversely proportional. And now I am going to do the last one. 24 over 30 is equal to, put the x on bottom, 1280. Cross multiply, 30 times 1280 is equal to 38,400 equal to 24x. And multiply those two. Divide both sides by 24. Divide both sides by 24. And we get 1,600. So see if that makes sense. As the number of teeth go up, the RPMs go down. Yes.